Hello, welcome to Love Heals Cancer and ZenOnco.io. I'm Justina from ZenOnco.io. This is a cancer healing journey talk where we invite speakers who have gone through cancer, maybe as a patient, caregivers, or survivors. These CHAs are very close to our heart because many patients tell us that when they listen to others' journey, it inspires them. It helps them to boost their confidence and gives them hope that if others can beat this disease successfully, why can't they? So thank you so much for joining today's session. So could you please introduce yourself and tell us how it all began?
So my name is Jos, and my cancer story started back in 2020 during lockdown, unfortunately. Um, I had been experiencing some pain in my left breast for a while, but everything that I had Googled and found said that pain wasn't really part of breast cancer, and it could be linked to hormones or periods or all that kind of thing. So I wasn't convinced it was anything at all, if I'm honest. Um, and so I'd got back to the UK just as lockdown began in March, and I was going to go to the doctors then, but because of lockdown and life was a little bit crazy, I hung off just a little bit until I got to the point where the pain was really bothering me. So then I contacted my GP, who very quickly referred me through to the hospital, and I went for some tests, but I was convinced it was nothing. Absolutely convinced. Was not expecting to be given a cancer diagnosis at all. I didn't tell anybody that I'd gone for the appointment because I didn't think it was going to be a thing. I didn't want people to worry unnecessarily. But as the time progressed during the clinic, I was thinking this isn't going quite how I thought it might go. I thought they'd scan me quickly and say, no, you're fine, off you go. And I was there for a number of hours. And eventually about 6 o'clock, I was the last person in the waiting room, and they brought me into the room, and there were 3 professionals, which I knew was not a good thing because I've done children's cancer nursing, and I know if there's more than one professional, it's never a good thing. And they said that they were able to confirm on the day that they were 99.9% sure that I'd got breast cancer, which was not at all what I was expecting to hear. And I remember laughing when they told me, and I joked and said, well, I've always said that my hair annoys me, and maybe I'll have a quick blast of chemo at some point to get rid of it and start again. And they all kind of looked at each other nervously. And then the other thing I said was, well, maybe this will pay my mortgage off. And again, they all looked at each other really nervously and said, you're taking this very well. Were you expecting this? And I said, yeah. And on the inside, I thought, no, I really wasn't. I'm just absolutely shocked, and I don't really know what to do right now. So when I got out, I rang a friend straight away and said, I know it's locked down, but I need you to come round tonight. It's really important. And so I shared it with my friend. And then I spoke to my brother, who lives in Canada, that night to kind of fill him in. But I actually held off telling the rest of my family for a week because I wanted to know if my sisters would be at risk. I didn't want to give them half a story and panic them about whether they needed to go and get checked out, or whether this was just something that happened to me, whether I was just, one of the 1 in 7, I think the stats are, that get breast cancer. And so I didn't tell the rest of them for a week. And then I gradually started telling a close knit circle of friends. I'm quite a private person, so I didn't want to tell everybody, but I decided to get a small group of people around me who would support me, who would love me, who would help me do this journey really, really well, because that was important to me. So yeah, that's kind of how it all started, in a very unexpected way.
Okay, so I know it would have been very, unexpected for you, as you said. So was there any family history from your side?
No, but then a lot of the females in our family have died quite early. So whether they would have gone on to get breast cancer, we don't know. But no, as far as we know, there's no history of breast cancer in our family at all.
Okay, so when you shared this news with your family members, what was their reaction? How did they respond?
Yeah, they took it a lot better than I thought they would. And obviously, I think they probably put on a bit of a front with me during the conversation and then went off and had their private moments. But originally, we thought that it was curable. And I had to tell, a lot of my family don't live nearby, so I had to tell them over the phone because it was lockdown. I would have preferred to do it face to face, but it wasn't possible. But I started the phone call by saying, what I'm about to tell you doesn't sound great, but it has a good ending, and I need you to hear that. And they were like, right, okay. And then I told them what had happened and said, look, the plan will be to have some chemo, some surgery, some radiotherapy, and some more chemo, but it's going to be okay. And I was quite surprised at their reactions, because obviously it was a shock to them. They didn't know what I was going to say. It's not a very nice thing to hear. But they all showed me how resilient they were at that moment. Obviously, they had their private moments afterwards where they were really upset. But I remember my dad saying to me, what language do you want to use? What do you want me to say? Do you want to talk about fighting it? Do you want to talk about a battle? Do you want to talk about something that's invaded your body? Like, what does your language want to be? Because I want to use that to help you. And I thought that was a really helpful way, because everyone has their own language around cancer, but he wanted to know what was my perception and how did I want to talk about my health journey, because he wanted to talk about it in the same way. And that was really great.
It's really great because, as you said, it's very important to, know the perspective of the patient, because for some, when the caregivers give a empathy, they can take it as sympathy, because the chemo itself and the other treatments are very, very painful and stressful. So yeah, the caregivers actually plays a very supportive, important role in the cancer journey. So could you please specify what all treatment did you undergo during that?
So I had some chemotherapy. So I started on 2 drugs initially that I was meant to have for 3 cycles. But after 2 cycles, when they scanned me, they said it's not really doing enough. We're going to switch you straight away to the other drugs. And then I was meant to have, I think it was 4 cycles of that before surgery. But in the October, I had a pain. Well, I felt really breathless, and I came home and I lay on the couch for a while and watched some telly for a couple of hours. But after a couple of hours, I felt like I'd been running. I felt really breathless, even though I'd been lying there. And so, because I've got a portacath in to have my bloods taken from, I wondered if I'd got a blood clot, which I know you have to take seriously. So I rang the hospital and they said, yeah, you need to come in. And so they thought I'd got a clot. I thought I got a clot. They started doing some investigations, gave me a blood thinning injection. And then through actually trying to look at my portacath on a scan, that's when they saw on my spine, and actually they said there was a couple of vertebrae that were oversclerosed. And what that means is, it's like when you break a bone, when the bone starts to heal, it shows up very, very white on the x-ray because there's a lot of calcium there. And actually they think that the tumors must have been in my spine originally, but they couldn't see it on the first scan. But the chemo had been damaging the bad cells, the cancer, and then actually this had shown up on the scan. So then they actually extended that set of chemo by another 2 or 3 cycles to kind of give me maximum effect from that, and decided not to do surgery because the cancer had already spread. So what they originally planned to do in terms of my chemo actually ended up changing a little bit in response to my prognosis in the end.
Okay, so did you look for any alternative treatments during that time?
I didn't look for alternative treatments as such. As I said, I've worked in children's cancer, and I live in Leeds, and we have a massive regional cancer centre. People come from miles around to come and be looked after in our hospital. And so I know that what we do is evidence-based. I know that what we do is always evolving based on research, which is an amazing thing. So when I was offered chemotherapy to start with, my first thought was, yes, that's what I'll do, because I know that this has been tried and tested. And I know that every single person is different, and some chemos work for some people and some don't. But I thought, this is something that's been tried and tested, and I need to give this a go. I was given advice about only drinking alkaline water, cutting out sugar, lots of things like that from friends who were all well-meaning, wanting to help, kind of saying, well, maybe if you try this, or I know this person who did this and it worked for them and they don't have cancer anymore. But unfortunately, I understand that it's much more complex than just cutting out sugar or not taking this or doing that. But one thing I did was to make sure that I went outside and walked every single day to keep myself really healthy. That was also really good for my mental health, not to be just sat in my house, particularly during lockdown when we couldn't really see anybody, but to make sure that I got out, went into the park every day, even if I couldn't go very far, just making sure that I actually left and trying to eat healthily. Although there were some days when they were like, do not try and diet, do not try and cut stuff out. Your body needs all the energy it can get right now. So if your body's craving something, just go with it, because that might be what your body needs. So I know a lot about the science of the medicine, and I have a lot of faith in our doctors. So that's kind of the main thing that I looked at. But the other thing that's been really important to me is my faith. And so I absolutely believe that God can heal. I know he doesn't do it all the time on earth, and I don't understand why, but I know that he can heal. So the people that I told originally about my cancer, every single one of their reaction was to say, I want to pray for you right now. And I was like, that's why I told those people, because I knew that they would have the right response. So in a way, that's like my alternative therapy, is to look to God to say, I need you to sustain me in this. I need you to walk this journey with me. Whatever the end looks like, I need to know that you're with me and you're going to help me to do this journey really well.
That's a beautiful therapy and the most effective, I guess, which worked for you the best. So, as you said that this all happened during the lockdown. So the lockdown itself was a very much, draining for everyone. And on top of that, you were diagnosed with cancer as well. So it would have been very mentally challenging for you. So how did you manage your mental and emotional well-being during that time?
Wow, I was a little bit naughty because the doctors told me I needed to take a year off sick, to not be, because I work in the hospital, to not be in the hospital, to not be around people. I needed a shield. And my response was, no, I'm not going to do that, because I thought, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit at home by myself, feeling sorry for myself. How is that going to make me feel any better? How is that going to achieve anything? So I said to them, no, I am going to still keep working. I would change my work days. I'll change my work pattern so that I'm not in the hospital as much, but I need to still come to work. I need to still leave the house every day. I need to be around other people. And actually, my work still don't know anything about my health. I haven't told them. And it's almost like my safe place to go, where I can just be myself, when no one does the whole head tilt, oh, how are you doing kind of thing, because they don't know any of that. So lockdown was hard, as in like we couldn't all mix and see people. But actually, I would meet a lot of friends for a socially distant walk and spend time with them that way. When things started to reopen a little bit, we'd go to a Starbucks and we'd take our deck chairs and we'd sit in the car park, however many meters apart, and spend time together in that way. So I think for me, being outside quite a lot, trying to be around people in the way that we were allowed to. But also I took up doing cross stitch again, which I haven't done for years. But I just found that the news was so depressing that every night at 9 o'clock, I would switch off the television, the news, my phone, and I would just do half an hour of cross stitch, just as a way of sort of refocusing my mind, bringing my thoughts back down for the end of the day, and just sort of allowing God that space to come and be a part of my life. So I think that's kind of how I managed it with my mental health and music as well. And I've got my keyboard, singing every day, singing along to the radio, making up little ditties myself, playing worship songs from church. All of those things help to lift my spirit during lockdown and with this health diagnosis.
That's really great that you looked for many activities which will be helping you to sustain, your mental health throughout the cancer journey. So there would be some time during your cancer treatment that it would be too much to take forward, like you want to just give up, or just too much to endure. So what helped you the most during those times?
God, absolutely God, I have to say. And just knowing that whatever happens, that God is with me, and just taking each day one step at a time, not trying to plan a week ahead, a year ahead, not trying to think through those things, and just think, what do I need to get through today? And then let's think about tomorrow, and let's plan for a tomorrow and then no further. So there's always one more tomorrow. And I didn't need to know what was coming, you know, far down the road. I just needed to know what to do that day and what to do for the next day. And I just think, yeah, just my faith in that is so important, knowing that God is always with me. He is always for me. And whether my healing comes on earth or whether my healing comes in heaven, knowing that God has got that for me.
That's great. So, during the cancer journey itself, there would be so many changes that happened in your life, the lifestyle itself. So, as you mentioned that there were so many opinions regarding, cutting down sugar or just sticking on to water and so on. So, what were the lifestyle changes that you followed during the cancer treatment as well as you're following currently also?
So I think just being really conscious of what I eat and when I eat. So I found there were times when if I ate really late, I would get really bad indigestion and I'd wake up with sort of a lot of reflux acid. So trying to be very aware of not eating too late at night and not eating spicy food or things that might kind of cause me problems at night. Making sure you always have breakfast, because each cycle I went off something new. So something that I might have absolutely loved the cycle before, I suddenly hated the next cycle round. So the types of food I was eating were getting very limited. But again, it was about learning to listen to your body. What does your body need? Sometimes I crave something really salty, and I think everywhere, but actually just learning to recognize at different times that your body needs different things. It needs different vitamins, it needs different minerals, and making sure that I try and listen to my body as much as possible to get those things into me. And also just drinking water to try and flush out any of the toxins that were going to be in my body from the chemo, to make sure that my system kept working well. And every single time I went for my bloods taking, all my levels have gone back to normal. My kidneys were always functioning really well. And I think part of that is because I was trying to stay hydrated, trying to make sure that I was flushing anything that was bad out of my body. And I still struggle to drink now. Like, I'm not great at it, but I make a really conscious effort every day to make sure that I drink plenty of water, which is good for so many different things. But yeah, I think that helps, really, really helps me.
Okay, that's great. So, what would be your top three learnings from this cancer journey? Because as you said that so much has changed in your life, and you got to know that your family is way too more supportive than you thought. So, what is your top three learnings?
So my top three learnings, I would say, let your friends and family express the way they feel, and let them help you. So people were offering to help me all the time, like, can we cook, can we clean, can we do this? And I learned that they actually felt quite helpless, that because they can't cure my cancer. So they needed to do something to feel like they were helping. And one day I said to a friend, could you possibly just give me a lift from this hospital to that hospital because I've got a scan there? And she was like, yes, I can do something to help. And I realized that actually the small things to me were big things to other people. So letting them have a way to help me, whether it was, can you just meet me and go for a walk? That was really, really important to them, because they felt like they were able to support me in a practical way, and they needed that as part of their own processing and journey. So yeah, so I'd say let people feel their own emotions and give them something to do, give them a small task, a small way of helping you. I would say get outside every day if you can, because I think it's very easy for the four walls to close in and for things to feel a bit dark if you just stay in the house. I think getting out, seeing how amazing creation is, getting some fresh air, even if you literally walk to the end of your road and back again if you can't go very far, just that change of where you are, that fresh air, being able to look at beautiful creation, I think is really good mentally. And the third thing I would say is it's okay to feel however you feel. Don't feel that you shouldn't be angry or frustrated, or that you can't have bad days, because actually that's your way of processing. And if you don't allow yourself to process that, all of that will stay inside and will have a negative impact on you. So when you feel like crying, it's okay to cry. You know, I didn't get around to doing it, but I thought if I feel really angry and frustrated, I actually bought some water balloons, some little water bombs, that if I felt really frustrated, I was going to fill them up and go and throw them at trees, just as a way of getting that anxiety, that frustration out that wouldn't cause damage to anything else. And then obviously I'd pick up all the litter. But just go with whatever emotions you've got. Don't deny yourself those emotions, because that's all part of the journey as well.
That's so true. I completely agree with you that, mental health is very important during the tough times. You have to, sustain your own mental health. Like others can actually contribute, but it's you who have to do the most. So, uh, today, so many people will be listening to you and your journey. So, what would be one message for the cancer caregivers and patients and survivors who will be listening to you?
I think my one thing that I would say is there is always hope. There is always hope for healing, whether that's here on earth or whether that's in heaven, if that's something you believe in. And so hang on to that, live each day with that hope. Don't give up. Don't accept when the doctors give you an expiration date. They are just working to the best of their ability with medicine, but we are an individual. We are not a statistic. And so always, always, always have hope.
That's such a warming message. So to sum up this successful and brave journey of yours with cancer, in one sentence, what would it be?
Gosh, that's a hard one. What would it be? I would say walk each day with hope, knowing that there's always more to come.
That's amazing. Nice. So thank you so much for sharing your experience and the cancer journey with us. It was really inspiring listening to you. And we are hoping that this would be reaching out to so many people and helping them a lot. So thank you so much once again. We wish you all the very best for your future endeavors. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.